The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
We'll fix that in post. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Scarefest Radio. I screwed everything up. I actually started the show a minute early, and I was not ready for all of the intricate details of broadcasting live on the air. Everybody, this is Scarefest Radio. The original broadcast date is April 12th, 2019. We have a big show tonight. First of all, Suzanne McComas is a private detective, and she will be talking to us about the evil, what is it? It's like the evil within, but we're talking about like people that are like in prison for like killing people and the little weird, evil demonic things that, go on with that. And, so it's an interesting topic that is, has been brought to my attention many times. My co-host tonight is the lovely and talented Mr. Ken Boggle, fresh from his triumphant journey to Salem Con.
Yes.
And
yeah,
just
that
telling
was
us
insane.
15-hour drive, and he left his wallet, and he had to go halfway back or whatever. Now, the important part, the part that everybody, the only reason you all even watch this damn show. Yes, everyone, we have count them three celebrity announcements tonight. Now, your teaser is technically that those three become five, but I get to announce three in one group. So anyway, but we have real celebrity announcements tonight for those smart asses in the group that don't think we've been doing good enough. Yes, I'll put it this way. I'm going to put it this way, everybody. The first celebrity announcement at 15 after the hour. If you do not like this celebrity announcement, you are not my friend. That's how I feel about it. Okay, there. I put that out there to the universe. For the
masses.
The masses. I was
yes.
Power of not abundance. There's a
The
you psychics have a word. The law of attraction. That's what I was trying to think of. So there.
But can you really afford to be cutting friends out of your life, Wes? Are we really at that point where segregating people off?
After a while, Ken, you just give up anyway. You just say, nah, So the answer is yes. Because Suzanne was talking to me before the show, before you came on, Ken, and she mentioned about how when I had met her up to Post Town and how nice I was, and I actually told her, I said, don't let that get out. Don't.
Yeah, lies.
that would ruin my reputation on the show. Okay, let's get this bio out here. I know I get more stuff to talk about. Oh, I better go. I got to plug this multiple times through the show because one of the bosses told me to do it. The Red Wagon Festival is tomorrow in Lexington, Kentucky. That would be April 13th. Now, the Red Wagon Festival is a new festival that's at the Red Mile, I believe it is. It's basically to benefit the children of Shriners Hospital. So it's on the grounds of the Red Mile Racetrack in Lexington, Kentucky. Scarefest will have a booth there, and they will have some new swag, some hoodies, and I think they even have like infant crap. They sent me a mock-up of stuff, but it had like 100 items in it. And I'm like, yeah, I bet you ordered 100 freaking items in all sizes. No. So anyway, I don't even know what all they have. I know they have some long sleeve t-shirts, some new hoodies that are like two-tone with the big ass logos on them. So, but these are all limited run stuff. Basically, these might be collector's items because if they don't sell like hotcakes, we're not bringing them back in. So there. So if you want some new Scarefest swag, tomorrow will be, because they're not available on the internet. Not available on the internet until they don't sell them all tomorrow. Then guess what? Your webmaster, it is all of a sudden they're available on the internet. Now, that was the important parts, and I'm still 10 minutes before break. Suzanne McComas, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What do you think so far? The everybody okay?
Fine. It's all...
Now, she is a law enforcement officer and a private investigator. Now, the weird thing is somehow...
used to be. Used to be.
Okay,
not anymore. Private investigator now. Yeah.
Well,
no longer a cop.
picky. Okay. Used to be. She was a law
That's a
enforcement.
big deal.
It's okay. Anyway, all that, but the important thing is, after being in California and Texas and New York and North Carolina, that's where she was. I like this unrestricted concealed carry. Oh God, that's like meat and taters to me. But what I'm trying to figure out is, why would you settle in Kentucky?
I love it here. I love it.
And it's because of the people.
Yeah, it's perfect for us. My kids love it. This is great. I'll never move.
Well, welcome to Kentucky. Did you pull it out of a hat? Did you have family here? What brought you to Kentucky?
Honest to God answer, the weather and how cheap the farmland was. We bought a big farm.
Now I can understand the farmland. Yeah. Compared to California.
Oh yeah, you can't live out there. You can't even buy a rat hole up there. It's terrible.
And who would want to? No, I mean that's an honest answer. I mean it's not sexy, but yeah, the cost of living is cheaper in Kentucky, even though we have a nice standard of life. We keep making all these great lists, like the 29th best city in the country to live, or whatever. If you take the school system out of it, we're on the top of most lists.
The school system my kids are in here is Harrison County, and I love it. I mean, they're doing great. So,
apparently in Kentucky we do bad on test. That's the only thing I can figure, is because I grew up up the road, Falmouth. Smaller town than where you're at now, and I absolutely loved everything about where I grew up. So you're in Kentucky now. You do have like I said, an interesting resume in that you've been in law enforcement, you've done the private detective thing, but now go ahead and tell us. Well, okay.
I make a living.
Do you get a lot of business in Cynthiana, Kentucky? For private detectives?
I get a lot of business. I work all over the country. I work for a couple of civil rights groups, and I literally work in all 50 states. It's crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
I do a lot of work.
So you're not counting on the farmers of Harrison County's missing cattle for your business.
You know what I do? You know what I do mainly here is like divorce cases, a lot of that, and a lot of insurance fraud. So that's the main two things that
and once again, we're like at the top of those two lists. So there you go, Kentucky.
Insurance fraud is bad. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad everywhere though.
But okay, I want to get to your topic now.
Okay.
The demon within, recognizing evil. Bev with the Mystical Fair kind of gave me the pitch for you, even though I forgot that's who gave it to me. Was this a topic that you kind of stumbled onto, or did something lead you to it?
I'm just going to tell you how I got interested in it. When I was a police officer, I was in Arizona, and we had to tour the state prison as part of our routine in case they ever needed help. We had to go all the way down to the state prison, and we were going through the maximum security area, and there was a guy who made eye contact with me who was one of the lifers down there. He was never going to get out. And it startled me because looking into his eyes, whoever was home wasn't human. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. I don't know what the hell I was looking at the time. And the guard came up and actually kind of bumped me and said, don't interact with him. It's not good for you. They all knew to avoid him. And looking back now, I realized what I was seeing. At the time, it didn't make sense to me because I hadn't run into that before. And so as my career evolved, I kept seeing that in the guys that did violent crimes. Every once in a while, you would see one pop up that you could tell, they had something on board. And I didn't even know the terminology for it. I wasn't particularly religious. I didn't, it wasn't a hobby. But it got to the point where I just couldn't ignore it anymore. And I started researching it. And it's just internationally, a lot of people are very comfortable with saying someone's possessed. And we have sort of I don't want to say stigma around it, but we always want to try and explain it away, with mental health terms. And sometimes you just can't do that. I went down to Texas to a sheriff's convention, and they toured the local county jail there. And we went into the Ag Seg unit where everybody was in their own cell because they were violent and the guards couldn't control them. And this guy was literally leaping at the door, trying to tear the door down. And he was very athletic and very well built and muscular. And he was literally making this metal door move. And the guard said to me, I think he's going to wear out eventually. And I said, how long has he been doing that? And he said, well, about 2 days straight. 2 days straight. And he was leaping at the door like a tiger, just beating on it. And you could tell just from looking into his face and in his eyes that, there wasn't a human being in charge there. I mean, that's the only way I can say it. So it is there, and the prison guards are kind of used to it. They know what to look for. But for those of us out here that don't see much of that, we're not real sure what we're seeing, I think, sometimes. We throw the word demon around a lot, and when you actually see one on board somebody, it's
you just made the point that I was getting ready to make. The reason Americans are so adverse to the demon word, I believe, is that it gets thrown around so willy-nilly. I mean, somebody's got rats in their basement and they hear noises, and there's a demon living in my barn. There's a demon. Americans like to blame things on other entities. Yeah. Whether it's human or whatever. And because of our proclivity to do that, I think the majority, maybe not majority of the population, a large piece of the population, we get desensitized to it, I guess you could say. We want people to take
with it. I think we get comfortable with the idea that there's this little red leprechaun who's evil, lurking around every damn corner, and it just sort of, I think it softens what it really is, which is terrifying, by the way. I mean, the college student down in Florida that attacked those people that were sitting in their garage minding their own business, if you go and you can find them, they're out there, find the photos of him immediately after that when they had to literally physically pull him off that poor woman that he murdered. You can tell that there's just this huge disconnect in that young man. I mean, he's not what he was 20 minutes before that hit.
Yeah,
and toxicology came back normal. They kept thinking he had dope on board. And he didn't. His toxicology was normal.
The follow-up to that is, okay, now in any of your observations, right before we go to the commercial break here, when I think of a demon possessing someone, generally the demon is not in the driver's seat 24/7. To me, a person that is possessed is going to have periods of lucidity. Is not a good word because you can be lucid while you're possessed, I would assume. But in other words, that look, that stare would not be there 24/7, I wouldn't think, for a possession. I don't know that because I'm not a demonologist.
It kind of simmers. I think it kind of simmers, and that was part of the in-depth part of the topic, is recognizing it is when people start to go down that path afterwards when they blow. you always have a family member or a couple of neighbors or somebody that'll say, well, he or she, and there's a lot of women, it's about 50-50, started acting odd, and all of a sudden they got paranoid, and they thought people were watching them, and they wouldn't let their kids go to school, and, so it sort of builds. I think it's not something that's really direct and immediate. It's more like sort of the fog creeping in. And then it finally just sort of takes over because their rational brain is fighting back. They make excuses for themselves. Oh, I'm just tired. I'm stressed. I'm this, I'm that. And then, when it finally blows, it's horrifying what they're capable of. It's horrifying.
Everybody, we're going to take our first commercial break. You're watching Scarefest Radio. When we come back, we're going to do our first celebrity announcement, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Ken Boggle. Have you checked out the Mama Ruby's family of metaphysical and spiritual shows? The Mystical Fair in Lexington, Kentucky, Lexington's only monthly psychic and holistic healing arts fair. The Inner Light Festivals in Louisville in June and Lexington in November. And watch for Mama Ruby's Expo coming in 2020. Plus, Mama Ruby's Meta Lecture Series featuring interesting guests speaking on fascinating subjects. Start your journey now at mamarubies.com for more information. And welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest Radio. Our first celebrity announcement of the evening for Scarefest XII, Scarefest 12, Scarefest 2019, Lori Petty. Lori Petty, known to the general public as Tank Girl, also has a bit part, I understand, on Orange is the New Black, whatever that is. Sounds chickish to me, but I know.
Whatever that is.
But everybody, okay, now this is the one I was telling you about. If you're not excited that Lori Petty, because everything, I've seen her in a bunch of stuff. Her IMDb is just, it's so long, it's boring. If this is not the type of guest that you want Scarefest to bring in, you're not my friend anymore. That's how I feel about it. No, she did Masters of Horror. The owner of Scarefest, Brandon, wants me to switch one of the platelets that I used in making the banner because apparently he thought she was absolutely great in Masters of Horror. I personally have not seen it, but and so mainstream actress. I mean, I don't think anybody can deny that. As much TV as she's been, she did a voiceover in Transformers: Robots in Disguise. I mean, how is that for a resume? So Lori Petty will be coming to Scarefest 2019. That's our first celebrity announcement. Ken, over to you.
Well, just on Lori Petty, you have to remember that she was on Free Willy and A League of Their Own. So for those of us who are not always up on horror related things, she's pretty amazing. Because A League of Their Own was an exceptional movie. Gina Davis, Madonna was in it, Rosie O'Donnell, and Madonna, all these people. Fabulous. So, Lori Petty, I can't wait. Give me an autograph. Okay, lover, look, you are amazing. And military, then become law enforcement, then become PI, all over the place doing all kinds of things. I need to know if there's ever been a crime scene you come to that you just could not even bear. Was something so twisted and sick you couldn't even cope?
We had one like that, and the guys couldn't cope, so they asked me to go in and take care of it because they knew I would do it. It cost them big time. It was a sex crime, and I'm not going to describe it because it was really disgusting. But the men were all sort of walking out and puking, and my boss said, go ahead. I know you can deal with it, and I did. And still, I mean, it was just, yeah, it was awful. As far as like just heartbreaking, I had a motor vehicle accident with 9 victims all at the same time.
Wow.
And that was just heartbreaking because, you know, by the time we got there, we were like 3 minutes behind and everybody was already dead. And the drunk that caused it was standing there next to his truck going, I don't know how it happened. He was fine. He literally was fine. He had a broken nose.
Of course.
All those people.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, you know. So
I mean, how that makes sense. I mean, I don't even know how that makes sense.
Always that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always that way.
So
you know, you see a lot of stuff that I just hate to put that in people's minds. It's like, you know, if you don't want to go into this as a job, you know, there's a reason. You could just stay out of it because it's awful. That's why I don't like the gory horror movies, because I've seen so many crime scene photos. It doesn't hold any appeal for me to see that when I go to the theater. I like fun stuff. Well, I like suspense.
The Scarefest listeners would love to trade places any day of the week because there's some sick people out there. The Scarefest group is pretty intense. Okay, so did that have anything to do with your taking a leave from law enforcement? Did that in some way perpetuate that decision to make?
You know, it did, and I thought that I was out of it for good. And then when I started working as a private investigator, I got asked to help on some cold cases just by people that knew I was a PI, and they didn't know what I specialized in, by the families. And I started helping, and I just thought, you know, this is really where I need to be because I'm good at this, and I can help these people. And then I got picked up by America's Most Wanted to review the ones. They had so many people asking them for help nationwide. They had all these cases coming in, and they didn't know which ones were valid and which ones they wanted to, you know, actually show on air. So I had to go through and do the interviews and review the scenes and talk to the police officers and see if it was something that they wanted to air or not. And it just stuck. You know, I mean, when you're helping people, I guess you just do what you got to do. You know, I do love doing it. I'm not kidding. I mean, I love the analytical side. I love finding something that I do wrongful conviction, Ken, and that's my pro bono work that I've done. I've gotten, I think, probably 200 and some years back for guys and gotten them out the door that have been wrongfully convicted or had their sentences reduced because they were convicted of something too heavy than what they did. So, you know, it goes both ways for me. I just like fair. I like it to be fair, and I like things to be done right. So
I love that. But so that leads me to like this whole other part that's got nothing really to do with gore or horror. And that is, how do you determine whether or not you're going to even invest yourself in someone's defense? Like, I mean, you've got back 250 some years. Like, you have to have some kind of criteria where you're like, oh, this one's obviously guilty and this one's okay.
Lying.
What's your criteria?
You can tell when they're lying, you know. I mean, you interview them and you can tell really quickly, you know, if they're trying to BS me into making me believe that they're innocent. I know what to ask them, you know, to kind of just break through. Their families have all got one story, and the families get the ones that they want them to get so that they'll continue to help them. But when I start talking to them, I'll sit down with them for an hour, if that's what it takes, you know, and ask them all kinds of questions about their crime. If they're really forthcoming and they're very honest with me and the evidence and the discovery backs up what they're saying, then, you know, I try and help them. But 9 times out of 10, when somebody comes to me for help, I'll, you know, we'll get the dodge game going. I'll say, so where were you, you know, at 8 o'clock that night? And they'll be like, wow, you know, your hair's longer than I thought it would be. I'm like, no, that's not what I asked you. What? You got one more chance. Where were you at 8 o'clock the night the murder happened? You know, I think we were eating pizza. I'm not really sure. Me and some dude. And when they pull the some dude line out, I'm done. You know, because if your ass is sitting in jail for murder, you damn sure should know who was there with you eating pizza. Okay, that's all I'm saying. You should know. So they shoot themselves in the foot pretty quickly. They do. It doesn't take long to sort out the bullshit from the real.
Well, maybe you could, when we're off the air, kind of give me your list of questions to determine liars, because I'm having terrible luck with that. Just maybe like a little side note training moment, if you don't mind, because that would be exceptional.
Sure.
And Wes, I'll share that with you in front.
Trade secrets.
Yeah, I need that in my life.
No, I had an inmate client that he wanted me to go to bat for one of his friends. And I said, okay, so tell me what happened. So he told me the story, and as he's telling me, I knew there was a big hole in the story, right? And when he got all done, I said, go back and ask your friend one question. He said, what? I said, ask him if the lights were on. And he was like, okay. And he got to thinking about it, and he went back to the tier, and he called me that night, and he said, he was lying. The lights were on. He could see everything. He shot that guy on purpose. I said, yeah, I know. I just wanted you to find out on your own. And he's like, dang, I've been listening to this crap for 6 months, and I thought he was telling me the truth, and you blew it in 3 minutes? How is that possible? I said, because you can visualize what's going on, and I can see it in my head, so I know if he's lying or not. If the lights were on, he should have been able to see. It's just common sense if you work this all the time. So my client was super angry with this guy because he'd been badgering him for months to hook him up with me so I could help him out, and I took like 3 minutes. It was over. So.
She's like, I'm out the door. I'm over.
I'm out. I'm off. Yeah, next. Yeah. It's like, next. And the families get mad at me. But, I've actually had some families call me and tell me that they want me to interview them so that they know if they should keep throwing money down the hole. Because they're paying for all these lawyers, and they're paying for, right. and they don't know if they're getting, are they just wasting their money? And I've had to call him back and say, it's time to just stop, because he's right where he needs to be. He's guilty.
What is the general reaction, though, for people who have been wrongfully convicted, and then you've been with them and you've worked with them and everything turns out to be great and they get released? So what's like the general reaction that you get from them and their family?
Well, it's funny. They want to get away from it. So I'll get the phone call, because I'm never there, because they're all over the country. I'll get the phone call that tells me, thank you, and then their wife or their mom or whoever gets on the phone and thank you, and then I never hear from them again, because they're just they've lost so much time out of their lives.
Yeah.
They just want to go back to their life. They want to leave all that behind them. I'm not on anybody's Christmas card list, and I'm okay with that. I get that. They want to just, it all needs to go behind them, and they need to, have a life again. So that's okay. That's fine. I would do the same thing. My one guy that had life in prison, and he truly was wrongfully convicted. It took us 4 years to get him out. I was there for his trial when he got convicted, and I started working on his literally the next day. And it still took 4 years. And he called me and said, I'll never forget, it was so funny. He called, and I picked up the phone, and I saw the area code, and I knew who it was. And he said, so how's it going? Like that. And I said, you asshole. I said, you're right. He said, I couldn't have done it without you. And he said, I just can't ever make this up to you. And I said, you're not supposed to make it up to me. It's okay. It's totally fine. And I could hear his wife in the background, and she was just crying. She was just crying and being happy. And I said, guys, just, go live your lives. It's good. We're good. We're even. It's fine. And he's a great guy. He really is. He was totally thrown under the bus, and the Supreme Court in that state exonerated him, and he was out the door. And it took 4 years. He was sitting in prison for 4 years for something he didn't do. And, you just can't. I don't know what I would say if the shoe were on the other foot. Thank you, I guess, just covers it. So it's okay. I'm good with that.
I'd be inviting you over for Christmas dinner. I'd be sending you flowers. There'd be a fruit basket.
Never. I have never gotten anything from anybody. It's just they always just call. Everybody just calls. That's it.
That's insane. So how long does it usually...
Because I told them they don't have to do anything too, I got one guy who's promising he's actually getting out. When is he getting out? June. He gets out in June, and I got his sentence reduced by 14 years. So he's getting out 14 years. And he is promising to come mow my lawn once. Now, he's in Missouri. I'm not holding my breath that he's going to show up and mow my lawn. But knowing him, he might actually just show up someday and say, where's the lawnmower, and do it, because he's been telling me that for 5 years. And I just keep telling him, okay, sure, let me know when you're coming. So he may actually show up and mow the lawn, because it's the thing with him. He's been saying that to me since, I don't know, hell, like 2012 or something. So yeah, he's finally getting out, but he would have been in until he was 52, I think 53, and he's getting out at 30. Yeah,
that's remarkable. Yeah, that's a huge difference, an absolutely huge difference. And like I said a minute ago, I couldn't imagine just like not ever speaking to you again. That would drive me insane. But we're at the 9:30 mark almost. So, Mr. Forsyth, we'll turn it back over to you.
And we're going to go on to commercial break. I just want to throw in here that you're lucky you're getting phone calls. I'm surprised now they're just not texting you. Like, thanks for getting me out. Smiley face. Okay.
You know what? They know I hate texting. I hate it.
And Wesley texted.
I at least get the phone call.
So, everybody, we're going to do our commercial break. When we come back, we have another celebrity announcement for you paranormal fans. Everyone is talking about CBD oil. Most of us know that CBD is a cannabis compound that has significant medical benefits, but does not make people high. Its benefits include pain relief, anti-seizure properties, anxiety relief, fights cancer, reduces the risk of diabetes, and it is even used as a sleep aid. Blue Leaf Naturals CBD and hemp products are full-spectrum hemp extract oils. They use only hemp grown in Kentucky, supporting Kentucky farmers and businesses and helping you and your family stay healthy and well. Blue Leaf Naturals, created with care from seed to shelf. Visit their website at blueleafnaturals.com. Blue Leaf Naturals, a Kentucky proud company. And welcome back to Scarefest Radio. Important point to be made on Blue Leaf Naturals. We've got this stuff. Support local farmers. I'm not growing hemp. I don't have a hound in this race yet. But this stuff is being imported now from all over the place. Support local, because that's the people that when you ask for a donation for your kids' Girl Scout program, you're not going to come out of California. It's going to be one of these Kentucky people. So, our celebrity announcement. Dun-da-da-da. The Ghost Brothers are returning. Now, the Ghost Brothers, Marcus Harvey, Dalen Spratt, and Juwan Mass are coming back to Scarefest. And the important thing the words are not out there real big yet. The show has been renewed. So this is not just an also ran. They have season 3 is coming up, I believe. The date to launch is like September. So in other words, they will be a hot commodity when Scarefest rolls around, because they will be back on the air. 3 great guys. I've met them, talked to them, and looking forward to seeing them again. And they will probably be on this show before you know it, because they. Although Ken, I don't know if you were involved or it was Chris, but who was it last time that they gave us like 15 minutes and didn't tell us? It might have been Chris.
Yeah, I think that was Sutton.
Okay. Now, on just some things, I just want to point out, Suzanne, that based on your criteria, as far as you're going to start asking questions and then you tell us if they're lying or not. What about idiots like me that forget? I would get life for a parking ticket because I couldn't remember shit. I don't like to think I would just make up and fill in the blanks, but I don't remember. I'll put it this way. I'm sure I had an alibi for every crime that was committed last night, but I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you.
That's nothing abnormal. I mean, I can't remember what I was doing last Tuesday, but and that's really been a problem for some people, because if they're home alone watching TV, then the next question is, what were you watching? And then you have to really dig deep to remember. I mean, sometimes I can't remember stuff I've done from day to day. And I had one guy that got picked up for a murder, I think like 10 years after it happened. And they asked him where he was, and he just kind of rolled back in the chair and said, "Are you serious? You want to know where I was in 2004? What the hell?" He said, "Where were you last week?" And I thought that was the funniest interview I ever saw, because the cop looked at him and said, "We're not talking about me." He said, "Well, where the hell were you in 2004? The cop's like, "I don't know." I mean, what are you going to say to that? You know kind of where you were living, but do you know what you were doing on June 12th, 2004? I mean, it's not really a fair question.
Now the other thing, tell me as a private detective, okay, you're looking for lies, and I get that when you're doing these interviews. Now, one thing I do know, and this is big in the paranormal field, something happens, and we experience it. But then, as we are farther removed from the event, our mind embellishes it, fills in details that we didn't catch. It's called what?
Rewriting history.
How does a professional tell the difference between somebody that is lying versus somebody that really, I mean, sometimes these people believe they're telling you the truth. They believe they're telling you, that the walls were bleeding in my case or whatever.
You go down to the details. Like if they start telling me this big long-winded story, I stop them and we go step by step. And if they're being honest and they're doing it to the best of their ability, they can actually tell me step by step what happened. If they're embellishing it or they're making it up, they can't fill in the little tiny details. And I did that in front of an attorney with somebody who's, I'm not going to mention his name because he's still waiting trial, who said he shot someone in self-defense. And I stood there and took him through the shooting with his attorney there. And when we walked out of the room, his attorney looked at me and he said, "Son of a bitch, he killed him, didn't he?" And I said, yeah, he did. Because he couldn't fill in the details of what his body was doing at the time, because he knew, you could see him stop and think. He was trying to create it so that it was favorable to him.
That was my next question. I've always read and heard that, like, okay, when you're telling the truth, even if you have to search for details in your mind, and I don't remember which direction's which, but they always said that people will, if they look toward their left hand or to the right. Is that true? Is that based on?
If they look to the right, they're actually trying to remember. They're genuinely trying to remember. If they look up and kind of to the right, most people, not everyone, but most people are genuinely searching their memory, trying to give you an honest answer. Yeah. I mean, it's majority. Yeah. If they look down or they look over to the left, they're trying to create something to cover their ass.
What if they look down and to the right?
Well, if they look down at all, they're lying. They're trying to make. They're trying to BS their way through it. And you know what's funny is now that that's gotten out, you'll see people they try and consciously look up to the right while they're making stuff up because they're like, well, and then they look down and they're like, oh crap, I did it, and then they look back up again. They still can't help themselves.
Well, for the record, when I'm lying to you, I always try to make eye contact. I don't know why. I just now. I almost forgot. I'm going to give away a decal. I still have not sent out all the 3-day passes. So here's a picture of the decal. It is a neat decal that you can put on a car window or a barrel or a wall or your overweight husband. It doesn't matter. There it is. There's the picture.
God.
It's a decal. You can do whatever you want with it. And
slap down on his butt.
So what I want you to do on the Scarefest page, which is not loading for me, which is making this really hard to do. God, I hate AT&T internet. Okay. And sponsoring Scarefest this year. Anyway, on tonight's banner, on the Scarefest page, the Scarefest Facebook page, not the show thing, but the actual banner that I posted tonight, with the details of tonight's show. There is a banner that shows who the guest was, and I mentioned that we have 3 celebrity announcements. And anyway, it's on the Scarefest page, not the group, not the group, the page. I want someone to comment. The men were all puking. The men were all puking. That will be our tagline.
That's my tagline on my show. Thanks, Wes.
Hey, not the worst one we've ever used. Trust me.
Yeah, that's accurate. Not the worst by far, babe.
Okay. Well, I won't say anything.
Now, without giving away what your speech is at Scarefest, could you tell us, or is it too much of a giveaway, do you feel, to tell us that what the cases are? In other words, who was involved in the cases, or any background, without giving away? Because we want people to come to your seminar, but let's tease them a little bit with what you'll be talking about.
Okay. Well, I pulled 3 cases where people claim to be demon possessed, and I wanted the audience to hear what their claim was, and then I'm going to let the audience sort of roundtable whether or not they believe these people and what the circumstances were for the crime. So they're gonna have fun with it, because they actually get to interact and kind of diagnose if they were lying or trying to cover up their crime, or if they genuinely did have an issue. I will tell people that because I'm putting up crime scene photos and everything, I'm not going to allow any children in there. So under 16 is not allowed in there. You may be okay with your kids seeing that. I'm not okay with your kids seeing that, because I'm putting it up. So please don't bring your kids into my seminar, because I'll kick you out. I'm just not going to let them.
Fair enough. Hey, I love a good disclaimer. Now this is actually more of an issue with something that Ken said. Ken said about how the Scarefest people would just absolutely love all this crime scene stuff. Here's my experience. We have friends that are nurses, and they're dealing with blood and guts and puke all the time, and that's what. But you have if you injure a kitten and they have to get stitches, they will pass the fuck out. I'm sorry. That is So, in other words, all these Scarefest people that love all these gory movies, if they actually had to immerse themselves, if you will, into real gore and real horror, I don't think so. I think I think most of us would just cry and scream and do what you said the male policeman did, just come out puking and. So there. Incidentally, everyone, I did on the banner that I'm trying to do the contest on. I actually posted via the Scarefest. It says contest here. So if you want to win a window decal, which I will mail to you the first of the week, contest here. It was posted on the banner on the Scarefest business page on the Facebook. Ken, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute while I watch that.
All right. Well, I mean, we have 3 minutes before we take our next commercial break. So I have got to pick a question that I have that's super easy and quick to answer. So let's go with this. Have you noticed a trend in, say, the lives of people who are convicted rightfully? Like, is there some kind of childhood trauma? Is there some kind of a common theme that sort of runs throughout those people?
Well, I'll tell you how I started. I've done some seminars inside maximum security prisons, men's prisons, and I always started out with raise your hand if this applies to you. And usually there's 30 or 40 guys in these seminars, okay? Raise your hand if you were sexually, physically, or emotionally abused as a child. Raise your hand if your parents were alcoholics. Raise your hand if you're an alcoholic. Raise your hand if your parents were drug addicts. Raise a hand if you're a drug addict. When I get done asking those questions, every hand in the room's up. Every single one. There isn't a single person in the room who that doesn't apply to. They've all come out of that situation, and that's what's brought them to where they are. And you will get the occasional just no priors, no. That's actually a hallmark of the cases I'm going to discuss, is they didn't have any of that, and they were perfectly fine, and they were normal, functioning people in society who just all of a sudden out of the blue apparently lost their damn minds for no reason whatsoever. And that's hallmark of what my topic is about, what my show's about.
So it's been your experience that if there's not some sort of childhood trauma or something that is very deeply affected them, drugs, alcohol, things like that, that it could be that just a normal everyday person just snaps.
They either snap or they open that door to something that's very dark and very evil, and it just kind of, swoops in on them. And two of the people that I've researched, I mean, one of them was a grandmother. She'd had a traffic ticket once in 20 years. That's it. I mean, that was her back history. She'd never done anything. I mean, and she just, went right out the window. And the other one, the woman was, fine. I mean, her husband was in the driveway fixing the car when she murdered all their children.
Wow.
For no reason. She can't even explain it. She still can't explain it. And her husband went to her trial and said, please, God, don't put her in prison. She's crazy. Put her in a mental institution. This is not my wife. I don't know who this woman is. That was testimony at trial. And so you have to really look at what would motivate somebody. And there is no motivation for what they did. I mean, there really isn't, except for that, they opened the door to something that, borders on the occult. I mean, that's the only way you can describe it.
So if you're in the driveway, Brandon Griffith, and you're listening to this message, go check on the kids. Wesley, back to you.
Okay, everybody, we do have. I'm going to give away. I'm going to send out 2 decals. They were really close on Facebook, but Deborah Hudson and Jake Godbold. I just felt like Jake needed a decal, so I'm going to send you both a decal. Message the Scarefest page. Just send a message that says I won and give us your address, and we will mail those out to you. Be right back after this commercial. Do you feel lost in life? Do you seem to be stuck in emotions that are not yours? Is your home not the sanctuary it should be? Contact Spirit Mechanics, where they take a team approach to your metaphysical and spiritual problems. Spirit Mechanics specializes in aura cleansing, stone attunement, attachment removal, and house cleansings. Spirit Mechanics tailors their approach to your individual spiritual path and needs. Find them every month at Lexington, Kentucky's Mystical Fair, mysticalfairlex.com, or on Facebook by searching Spirit Mechanics, that's MECHANIX. Spirit Mechanics, for your spiritual health and well-being.
Coyote Chris Sutton.
Shamanism.
Spiritual advisement.
Paranormal investigations.
Inspirational presentations.
Bringing light to the darkest places for over 20 years. Go to coyotechris.com to learn more. And welcome back to the final segment of Scarefest Radio. We have a celebrity announcement. Now this is one. Every year, y'all people say, why don't you bring in any wrestlers? And we just say, because we're not a wrestling convention. Well, guess what? We folded to your request. We have given in Mr. Mick Foley. Mr. Mick Foley, who is also getting some acting credit now, I will say. But Mick Foley is coming to Scarefest. WWE Raw. And he's written like a buttload of books. So he's also an author. His actual bio says author and professional wrestler. So that's Mick Foley. Mick Foley is coming to the Scarefest. Very quickly, because I want to give Ken a little more time where I kind of cut him short before the commercial break. Now, first of all, I do want to point out one thing that Suzanne. 2 years ago, I think it was at Scarefest. Now, I have a no criminal history to speak of. A speeding ticket when I was 18. But I want to tell you.
You have to predicate with that. This is going to be interesting.
The Thursday night before Scarefest started, I was this close to going on a killing spree, just because. It was like, if you people mess with me one more time, have me change something on this website, you're gonna get your serial killer speeches quickly. So anyway, now this is kind of, it's not off topic.
You'd be a spree killer. You'd be a spree killer then.
It'd be spree. I learned the definition, spree killer versus, but yeah. So yeah. But they didn't know the difference. Anyway, I did want one more question. Now, this is kind of sideways. It's not off topic, but sideways. In your experience, have you ever ran into anybody? I want to say it'd be the nature versus nurture argument, but I've always felt that some people are inherently evil. Now, whether they're born that way or it's a matter of environment, but in other words, they didn't have to be possessed. They just, and I don't mean one day they had a bad day and killed their grandmother. I mean, these people from day one. Have you encountered such people? Do you think that it is?
I have.
In other words, just pushed into it.
I've had people that, well, and actually 3. They've all been men. So I haven't run into any women that fall into that category. I mean, I know there's some out there, but I haven't run into any. And they did their first crime against a living creature, like an animal, when they were 6, 7, 8 years old. And their parents were just, like, oh, they blew it off, or they couldn't believe it, or they assaulted a kid in class and assaulted siblings, and then they went on to other crimes. And, by the time they were teenagers, they were literally raping and murdering. And so, yeah, I think that does happen occasionally. I don't know why. The families they come from don't have any red flags. There's no abuse. There's no real causation for it. They didn't go through it first. You hear that about a lot of abusive men or women that are sexually abusive. So if they experience that, but not in this instance. They were very aggressive and very violent from, I don't know, like the age of 7, or 8. So it's different now. That used to be just, well, they were a bad kid. Now they've got all these psychological terms for it, and they put them in counseling, and they try and do all these different things. They isolate them in school. But, back in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, before that was really a thing, they, just sort of inflicted harm on people from day one. So, yeah, I do think that's possible.
Okay.
And most of them in prison, time 21, they're in prison for good. They're done. I mean, I can think right now that he did a double homicide when he was 22. He's been in prison ever since. And I asked him when he did his first crime, and he just laughed and said, when I was 8. He remembered it. Pulled a knife and cut one of his brothers, 8 years old.
Duh.
And killed people at 22. So he finally got put away, and, he's done. He's doing life. So it's where he needs to be. Can't be out here with us. I don't want him out here.
I was going to say, thank God. Thank God you can't be out here with us.
Stay right there.
Yeah. So let's talk some numbers. Let's talk a couple of, what is your experience, or you say, how many of the cases have you seen have come from some kind of deeply dark, occultish, demonic possession, something paranormal, versus how many of them are actually just, they killed someone, or that kind of thing? What is sort of the ratio to that? I mean, it can't happen often.
No, well, you know what? Let me just kind of break it 2 ways for you here. Homicides normally have 2 causes: sex or money. And when you say sex, you roll jealousy into that, for somebody cheating on someone.
Crime
money
of passion also, or something.
Right, crime of passion. Money means drugs, any type of thing that's currency. So that's 99% of the homicides out there. And then they have 1% that they throw in for just no explicable reason. It's just like a crazy percentage. So I think that the possessive elements that factor into some of these people would be in that 1%. Having said that, when I started researching this, I thought, I'll probably find 12, 14 cases. I found over 100, almost within a month, just people that fell into that category over and over and over and over and over. And most of them were here in the States, although there was some internationally. You know, they're just reported differently. And when I started talking to some of my lawyer friends about this, I had a death penalty attorney that looked at me and kind of laughed and said, well, we've got 2 in death row right now that qualify for that. They scare the crap out of me. I won't even interview them anymore. And so these are ones that aren't even on the radar as having been that way. But people that interact with them know, you know, that they're just, something is just not right. And they've murdered their families or done violent crimes for no real reason. I mean, you know, I don't mean to minimize this because the victims are never, you know, you never get closure, but you can go in and do a robbery without killing 5 people, okay? Just take the shit and run, you know? So when they go over the top and just slaughter people for the hell of it, which is what it is, they're doing it because they want to. Those are the guys that scare the people that have to deal with them. And sometimes they don't even realize what they're dealing with. But when this attorney said that, I said, name them. And he did. So I went and looked up their cases, and it was just horrific what they did. And for just out of the blue. Neither one of them had criminal records. One of them had some drug use, but he wasn't an addict. He wasn't out of his mind on meth or anything when he did it. The other one had nothing. I mean, nothing. He was employed. He was fine. His family said, oh, no, you've got the wrong person. There's no way. And he admitted to it right off the bat. He said, no, I'm going to plead guilty. I did that. I did it. I don't know why I did. And you know, it was so out of character for them. But they never came up on what I would call a paranormal radar, you know, where you or I would look at it and say, well, they claim demon possession. That never came up. That never was discussed by anybody. But everyone who dealt with their crime had kind of wondered, you know, like if that could be the problem. And if you look at their mugshots when they got arrested, and then you look at a picture of them now, can't even tell it's the same person, Ken.
Really? It's
weird. It's like the mugshot of when they got arrested, like a day or 2 after the crime. They're just like it's you know.
Yeah.
And you look at them now and they're like, hey, what's up? They look like your cable guy, you know.
Oh God. Not the cable guy. No way.
Nice. My cable guy's nice. But they look like your cable guy. They don't look like anybody. You wouldn't even look twice at them walking down the street. You go by them in the store, you wouldn't even blink. And it just doesn't correlate. There has to be something that happened. So
right.
I think I got off topic there on your question.
Well, no, totally fine. No, totally. But I have, and I know Wes and I, we only have a few minutes left, but I have waited to ask this one question all day. So you remember the case of the DeFeo family in the Amityville, right? Amityville. And Ronnie DeFeo shot his father, his mother, and his siblings. He claimed for a period of time that was demonic possession. Remember? So there was a lot of that talk in the beginning. So before we go, real quick, demonic possession or just bad egg?
He wanted the insurance money.
For the murder of his family.
Right. Yeah, he thought he was going to get the money. Yeah. If you want to see another one that's just like him, look at Jeremy Bamber over in England. Did the same thing. Shot his mother, father, his sister, and his sister's twin 4-year-olds while they were laying in bed. And then scooted out of the house and then claimed that dad called him and, you know, tried to blame the sister that she had done it and then committed suicide. And the cops are like, no, we're not buying that. And he's been doing life in prison ever since. So yeah, it's called the White House murders, but he did the same exact thing DeFeo did for $500,000. That was the insurance on Bamber, and he didn't get it.
Well, there was some talk about Ronnie DeFeo having been on drugs when he was known for using like LSD and marijuana and things like this. Was it the same for Jeremy Bamber?
No, it was straight up greed for him.
Straight up greed.
Greed. Mm-hmm.
Watch out, Anita. Wes is that kind of person, honey. Just tuck yourself in, lock the door. Good luck, babe. Wes, back to you.
Actually, the real problem I'm having is
they're going to pull this show up for a witness thing someday. I don't want to be subpoenaed. Okay, don't anybody do anything.
The real scary thing, if anybody was paying attention, when Suzanne listed the reasons people commit homicide, sex murder, or sex money, drugs. Ken had his look on his face like, I hadn't even thought of those yet. It was like,
Poor Ken.
It was like I had all these good reasons, and I just overlooked those. Okay, everybody, we're gonna recap. Yes. We're gonna recap here. Red Wagon Festival.
This okay. Give it a shot. What the hell?
Hey, we do it every week. It's amazing what we can come up with. Red Wagon Festival to benefit the children of Shriners Hospital. Tomorrow, April 13th, at the Red Mile Racetrack. Scarefest will have a booth. Scarefest will have new swag that you have yet to see. So check that out. If you want more information, redwagonfestival.com. Tonight's celebrity announcements. Lori Petty, a.k.a. Tank Girl. Mick Foley, the wrestler. Ghost Brothers, who will be having a new season coming out. All coming to Scarefest. And thank you, Suzanne McComas. Everybody, she'll be presenting at the Scarefest. Her topic, title, The Demon Within, Recognizing Evil. Watch for it on the program. Check that out when you come to Scarefest in Lexington, September. We will do what we can. And Ken Boggle, thank you for co-hosting, everybody. This has been Scarefest Radio.